The musculoskeletal system. This is the system that moves your body and grooves it. I have to say this, I do have to bust out this little story. I have to say, Nigel was talking about Star Wars earlier coming out, what is it, December the 18th, right? May the Force be with you, right? But I want to say this, before I saw Star Wars, the other good special effects was in this movie called Clash of the Titans. And I'll never forget, there were these skeleton guys running after them, Perseus, I think, and they had these shields and these swords, and I thought that looked pretty cool. That was pretty cool. But it wasn't until Star Wars that we actually had spaceships that moved across the screen that didn't look like somebody was like doing it, you know, in the background by hand. That was the first time we ever saw TIE fighters cruising through the sky, and it looked like they were banking, which is maybe impossible actually in a vacuum, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's all the effects, the cool stuff. But the musculoskeletal system is what moved these skeletons. And by the way, and here's what I remember now, thinking back about it. What makes a skeleton move? It's the muscles on it that make it move. So, if you see a skeleton and it doesn't have muscles, then it really can't move. So that was all fake, is what I'm trying to tell you. These skeletons running around with swords and stuff, that's not real, because they have to have muscles attached to them. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay, let's talk about the layers around a bone. What is the living layer that has nerve fibers in it? It's around the bone. It's called periosteum. Everybody say periosteum. Periosteum. The ends of the bones are called the epiphyses. So what is the shaft of the bone called? Everybody say diaphysis. And the medullary cavity, that's where fat and blood are located. That, by the way, is why dogs love a bone, because there's a treat inside. The units of bone are called osteons, and the matrix is the compact bone. Osteocytes are in lacuna, just like chondrocytes are. Let's talk about the different parts of the skeleton. The axial skeleton is right down the middle, and the appendicular skeleton, that's your arms and legs attached to your body, your hips. There are different vertebrae in your spine. The neck ones are called what? They're called cervical. The thoracic ones between your shoulders are called what? Everybody say thoracic. And the low back is called lumbar, and then there's the sacrum and the coccyx. Your upper arm bone, is it called the humerus or the radius? It's called the humerus. By the way, look up. The bone that helps you do like this is the ulna, and it's the radius that helps you do this. It's the radius on the outside, the ulna on the inside. The ulna is what allows for the hinge action, and the rotatory action is the radius. Remember that you have carpals in your wrist, and metacarpals and phalanges. Remember, in your feet you have tarsals, metatarsals, and phalanges. The pelvic girdle is made of two coxal bones. Those are your hips. Some people call them the innominate. What is the longest bone in your body, y'all? It's called the femur. The smallest bones are malleus incus stapes in your middle ear, by the way. Remember that. What is another word for kneecap? Patella. What's the big bone in your leg? Okay, good. Tibia. Y'all are rocking with this. And the fibula is on the outside of your leg. Let's talk about the muscles next. And I'm going to give you a few just to kind of focus on. This is the muscle around your mouth that closes and protrudes the lips. Orbicularis oris. Orb, by the way, means circle. All right, this abducts and raises the arm at the shoulder joint. It's called the deltoid. Why is it important? Because about 3 fingers down, that's where they give you a shot right here. That's an anatomical thing. And then on the front of your thigh, that is what allows for a kicking action, extension of the leg. There are 4 muscles together. What are they called? Everybody say the quads. And what are the muscles on the back of your leg that help flex the leg at the knee?
Gluteus maximus.
Everybody say hammies. Hammies. Y'all just want to say gluteus maximus. Anyhow, the gluteus maximus is what extends your thigh at the hip. Yes. So, let's go back to the muscles for just a second, and let me just do kind of a quick run through on these. Frontalis is an eyebrow raiser. Masseter is for chewing. Sternocleidomastoid is on the side of your neck, and it's a lateral flexor and a rotator of the head. Trapezius muscles are for shrugging. Those are in your back. Deltoids are for abducting the arm. Look up. Make a muscle is biceps. That's this one. And triceps is on the other side. It's antagonistic to the biceps. Kind of neat, because if you didn't have a triceps, then you would have to just physically reload your arm every time for the next set. But you have a muscle that can help reset it. The latissimus dorsi goes from your low back to your arm. So when you do a pull-up like this, you're working on latissimus dorsi. Remember that the gastrocnemius muscles are on the back of your calves, and along with the peroneus and the Achilles tendon, these are what help you go up on your tiptoes. Remember, listen up, that peroneus longus also helps you go up on your tippy toes, and tibialis anterior lifts your toes up. If it's an adductor muscle, y'all, it brings something closer to the midline. So in our case, we would be talking about a leg muscle. The sartorius goes from your hip to your knee and helps you cross your leg when you're sitting down. And look up, your pecs are right here, and they allow for flexion and adduction of the arms, and so that's why people a lot of times will lay on their back and work out their pecs. Always remember, don't just work out the pecs, work out the rhomboids in the middle so that you get even, you don't walk around kind of like this. That right there tells you somebody that's been doing too much front and not enough back. So you have to get that to get the balance. You can look at me and tell that I'm balanced. I thought that was funny just for a second. The rectus abdominis is the six-pack right here in the front, and that's what flexes your trunk. There's also another one, the psoas major is also a flexor of the thigh. It's also a flexor of the trunk. And that's pretty good. Let's talk about some of the movements, and then we're about done. Actually, a little bit more than this. Look up. This is flexion. This is extension. This is adduction. This is abduction. Rotation is around a central axis. And then if we were talking about the foot, internal rotation is inversion. External rotation is eversion. And we would be talking about elevation and depression. And if we were hugging, we would be talking about protraction, and if we were bringing our shoulders back, we would be talking about retraction. Lastly, we just want to talk about the sliding filament theory. Let's go back to that page for just a second. Look up for just a minute. There's a thick filament called myosin, and remember, actin and ATP are needed to uncover the sites on the actin so that the myosin, can reach up and grab onto the actin and then pull the actin toward the midline. And so that muscle contraction is what shortens the muscle, and it's called the sliding filament theory. Muscle units are called sarcomeres, thick filaments, myosin, thin filaments, actin. And I think that about concludes our musculoskeletal group.